Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20, and as you can see I've got a bunch of machines here hooked up to a flattener that's pretty much flattening out a bunch of grass for me. And why am I doing that, you might ask? Well, I'll explain in a moment. I've got Buildcraft 3.0.0 installed here. That's right, the alpha version of Buildcraft has been released. I spawned in a world that has like this giant ridiculous ocean going on, and I couldn't find anywhere good to set up shop. So I'm basically running a quick flattener to flatten out the land. I'm going to need all this stuff anyway eventually, so might as well run it now and just get a nice flat land area to hook everything up. So while this land is flattening out, let me talk a little bit about what's new in Buildcraft 3.0. Space Toad basically went a little nuts and added all kinds of really cool and really awesome items to the game. Basically, he set it up for us so that you can add logic to your wires and all your Buildcraft stuff. So all your pipes and all this other cool stuff can have logic built in. And I'm going to go into how it all works. It's all an end-game Buildcraft thing. So basically, you're only going to be able to do this towards the end of your Buildcraft career. You're not going to be able to build these things, early on because they use a lot of diamonds and a lot of other cool stuff. So why don't I get started here? As soon as this land is all flattened out for me, I will get started building. So I'll be back in just a few minutes. Alright guys, so opening up my crafting book here, you can see that there are two new Buildcraft items. Number one is a laser, and number two is an assembly table. These two items are going to come together to build pretty much all the new items that Space Toad has added for us. So why don't we get started crafting one of these guys, an assembly table and a laser. So as you guys can see, I just built an assembly table. This is actually a pretty complicated little device that Space Toad has added for us, and it's really pretty cool, and I can't wait to start using this guy. If you open up the interface here, you'll see there's 3 blocks over on the left, 2 sets of blocks over on the right, and this little bar in the middle here. Don't worry, I'll explain it all. It's actually pretty straightforward. And while I'm getting ready to set all that up, why don't I go ahead and just build a little wall here. Now, Space Toad did something like this in his demo video of how this all works, so I'm kind of duplicating it, and I'll need to play around a little bit to see exactly how this will work for us, but we'll figure it out. So we've got our interface table here, and this is how you build most of the circuits and pretty much everything that's going to go along with this mod. But in order to activate and build anything on this interface table, we need some lasers, which you just saw the recipe of in my recipe book here. Let's see, it was down here towards the bottom. There we go, lasers. So you can see that requires a couple of diamonds, where our assembly table required 5, our laser requires 2, some obsidian, and some redstone. So let's get hooked up with that stuff real quick. I'm just going to need a little bit of obsidian. I'm just getting myself a handful. I just get a whole stack. That'll probably be better. I'll get myself a stack of diamonds, and let's craft this guy up real quick, shall we? So, if you recall, it was 2 diamonds in the middle, obsidian top, left, and bottom, and redstone all around. And that's our laser. Now, before I do much else, I'm going to build myself a couple more lasers, and you'll see why in a moment. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and place one down right there. That looks pretty neat. And if you right-click on it, you'll see there's no interface. And I'm just going to connect some power cabling here. Lasers, of course, need power to run. Makes perfect sense if you think about it. So why don't I just get up here and run our laser like so. There we go. So now let's open up this crafting table and see what we can craft in it. So the first question you're going to ask yourself is, what kind of stuff can I build on this table? Well, if you open up TMI, you'll see a handful of the items that you can make. I think this is all of them. First off are the gates, and if you watch this preview video, you'll understand what these gates are all about. There's a standard gate, and then there's an iron AND gate, an iron OR gate, a gold AND gate, a gold OR gate, and a diamond AND gate, and a diamond OR gate. So basically AND and OR gates of different degrees of complexity. And there's a bunch of unnamed items here, and then you've got some piping wire, red, blue, green, and yellow. And then you've got these chipsets. You've got an iron chipset, gold, and diamond, and then a bunch of other unnamed stuff. So you don't have to worry too much about them. So basically you've got chipsets and gates of, standard, iron, gold, and diamond. So 4 of each. And I'll explain what all they do I'm not sure if I'll get to all of it in this video, but I'll definitely hook you guys up with the info. So let's turn off TMI for a moment. And it looks like it's getting dark, so why don't I sleep through the night and I'll be right back. Alright, so the first and most basic, obvious thing to create is if we place a piece of redstone in this table over here, you'll see on the right it'll show that it can make a redstone chipset. That's the basic redstone. If we place a piece of iron in there with it, you'll see now you have the option to create a redstone chipset or an iron redstone chipset. If we replace that iron with gold, you'll see it can make a golden chipset. But if we put our iron back in, you see we get all three options. Basically, the way this works is you can put all the ingredients that you want over here, and you can choose on the right side by clicking, and it'll highlight what you want to create in red. And click again, and it'll take it off. So let's say we want to tell it to create iron and gold. And the highlighted red is what it's going to create next. So you can see that as I'm changing it, it's highlighting things in brighter red versus the darker reds. And that's basically how it's going to work. So let's try our simple standard redstone. Highlight this guy in red, but it's not doing anything. Well, that's where our laser comes in. We need to apply some power to this laser to get it to start creating this redstone chipset. Now, the other thing that's going to happen here is that if we just let this guy run, it's going to be like the other Buildcraft items, that stuff's just going to land on the ground. So we're going to want to either place a chest next to it or connect it to some kind of cobblestone pipe or something like that, so that the items that are created by this are thrown into the chest rather than thrown on the ground. But maybe just so, yeah, we'll see what happens. So let's flip on our lever here that activates our pumps, and I threw down a good number of pumps. Apparently lasers need a good amount of energy, but let's see. If we flip this guy on, you can see he's shooting a red laser, and it goes from red to yellow to green to blue. And if we open up this crafting table here, we'll see this little progress bar starting to go up. Now, just like with your refinery, if we connect the power pump here, you'll see how the colors of the bars change based on the speed of the refinery. Blue for lasers is the highest power set, and red being the weakest. So red, yellow, green, blue. And at blue, the laser's operating at peak efficiency. It obviously needs more power. If we place a second laser nearby and connect that guy to some power, you'll see the second laser now starts to activate and work on the table. And the table's moving a little bit quicker now. Let's go ahead and throw down a third laser and throw down, if I can aim, and connect another power source to it. So you can see those lasers are working away on the table, and the bar is moving pretty quickly now. Now, the redstone chipset is probably one of the easiest things to make, so you can see that it's going to take you a little bit of time to accumulate a lot of these items. In fact, it might be wire that's the easiest. But once this is done, the lasers automatically turn off, so we can go ahead and turn off our combustion engines here. We don't need them running anymore. And the chipset was deployed right here in the chest. What we can also do is, let's say we put down 3. You can see it's already starting to work because that red thing was already activated there. And these lasers actually stored some power in their buffer from when the engines were running. But they'll quickly lose that power. Just like all their Buildcraft machines, lasers have a buffer, and they store their energy when not in use. If we want, we can turn that off and activate redstone iron chipsets, and you can see that the amount of energy it used to produce the redstone chipset is stored in the machine, and it's already got some progress done on the iron. We can also change it to gold or diamond. What we can also do is highlight these items in a row here, and it'll produce the 3 of them in sequence. So it'll create the iron, then it'll create the gold, then it'll create the diamond. Let's check that out now by activating our lasers. There we go. Just took a moment for those guys to flip on, and you can see that the lasers are now all blue, and they're cooking right along. Let's give ourselves a couple more lasers just to speed this process up. So why don't I find it in TMI here if I can. There they are. So why don't I just throw one here, and throw one over here. So now we've got a good number of lasers working on this guy, doing pretty well. And he's definitely going to move along. And like I said, iron chipsets take more energy to build than the redstone. So you'll see that as soon as the iron chipset is done, and why don't I just put this whole stack in here, just so you guys can see what will happen. It next moves on to the gold chipset, and it'll start making that. And you can see now that this is still highlighted, but a darker color. So what's going to happen is it'll create iron, then it'll create gold, then it'll create diamond. Then it'll cycle back and create another iron, and another gold, and another diamond. And like I said, you can click to turn things off. And it looks like it's a little bit buggy still, so that's fine. So clicking around in here. Remember, this is 3.0.0 and it's an alpha, but basically it works exactly as you'd expect. Now another thing I want you guys to see is that the lasers are having trouble keeping up because they're not getting quite enough power. Oh wait, they are. It's just because I turned them off and then back on by disabling everything. So they are getting enough power. So now we have these chipsets, but what are they good for? That's basically what we use to create our gates. So you can see that you place a chipset in the crafting table and we'll get a gate out of it. So let's flip our machine should be running. So if I just click on this guy, it should recognize that there's an AND gate to create here. Or I'm sorry, a regular gate. So that's how you create a gate, by just putting your chipset in the table and letting the lasers process on that guy. However, we can also place, let's see, I want to say if we put an iron chipset in here, you can get either an iron AND gate or an iron OR gate. And with gold, slightly different maybe. Let me double check the recipe. So while that gate is processing, why don't I show you a couple different items, because I realized that for the golden and diamond gates, these guys over here, golden and OR gates and diamond and or OR gates, I need some wires. And here's your red, blue, green, and yellow wire. So how do we make these guys, you ask? Well, not too shabby actually. You just need some blue dye, some lapis lazuli, some green dye from the cactus, rose red, and dandelion yellow. And basically the way to make these is as shown. We just place our redstone in there with a piece of iron, and I want to get the chipset out of there just to keep things less confusing, and place your dye in. So blue dye creates blue wire, green dye will create green wire, and of course you've got yellow and red as well. So I want to create each of these. Oh wait, it automatically crafted that because it had some residual energy. So I want to get through the night here, and I'll be right back. Alrighty then. So let's go ahead and try that again. I'm just going to put a stack of each in. And I'll put another red one in as well, just so you guys can see. So now red's already highlighted, and we'll highlight our blue, green, and yellow. And these guys should kick on in a moment and recognize that there's something to create. And you can see wires are crafted pretty quickly, much quicker than other items. Very nice, thank you lasers. So I've got my wires here. And like I said, redstone chipset will give us an AND gate. Or, I'm sorry, a regular gate. And chipset with iron ingot, iron chipset that is, redstone iron chipset and iron ingot, gives us the option for an iron AND gate or an iron OR gate. And again, you can just click on it and the lasers will start processing in a moment. Oh, my engines are getting a little hot over there. I didn't put water in them because this is just for playing. So you can see, cooking along, doing its thing. Now to create the gold guys, we're going to need the golden chipset. And let me double check the colors. So what you're going to want to do here is you're going to need your redstone golden chipset, a piece of red wiring, and a piece of blue wiring, and that'll give you your AND gates in the gold version. Or you can take your diamond chipset and you need all 4 colors, and that'll give you your diamond gates. So as you can see, definitely some higher end items, more expensive, but they all have functions, and I'll go into their functions briefly in a moment. And this is a pretty complicated system, so I'll probably do a brief coverage right now of all the different abilities that these gates have, and then I'll move into some more advanced ones in a part 2 episode of this. So give me a moment to get some of this stuff ready, and I'll be back to show you how these gates work. So I've set up a pretty simple chest system here. One chest here, pumping items over into this direction, and this chest will automatically pump the items back. So they'll just kind of trade items back and forth. Pretty neat, pretty basic. And as you guys are familiar with Buildcraft, place your item in the chest, and it'll get pumped out through the wooden pipe, and through the cobblestone pipes, and over into this pipe, where it'll land in this chest and then get pumped back. Now, that's all pretty standard and normal. And in fact, why don't I make this, instead of working constantly, just make this a redstone lever. Perfect. So you can see the item going back and forth. And I'll leave this one on as constant. Now, I gave myself the most basic gate. And as you recall, that was made by just taking one little simple redstone circuit, this guy, and placing it in the table over here. Redstone circuit equals gate. Pretty simple. The gate, when you place it on a cobblestone pipe, allows you to open up an interface on that cobblestone pipe. And the basic gate only has one-to-one option. This here is your if statement, and this here is your then statement. So if you're familiar with programming at all, you'll understand if-then statements. If this condition is true, then do this. And if it's not true, don't do this. So let's give an example. If you left-click over here, you can see our first condition is pipe empty. So in this case, if the pipe is empty, do something. What can we do? Well, let's see. If we click over here, we can emit a redstone signal. So right now the pipe is empty. And if I run some redstone wiring, it's emitting a redstone signal. Cool. And if I pump an item out of this chest, as soon as it starts to go through this pipe, the pipe will no longer be empty, which means we'll lose that condition, and the redstone signal will stop occurring. Ooh, spiffy. And you can see this red bar in the middle here is not active. That means that the current state is not active. And as soon as the item came out of this pipe, the pipe is now empty again, and the redstone signal is active. Pretty cool. And because this guy's constantly running, we'll get to see it again. Red bar disappears, means the condition is no longer true, and this redstone wire is off. So we've basically just recreated the redstone pipe that Zelda gave us. So those redstone pipes, not so much necessary anymore, are they? Sorry, Zelda. We can also say items traversing. So this is kind of the opposite. The redstone signal is off until an item is going through the pipe. And as soon as we get an item going through the pipe, then the redstone signal will turn on. So it only does this when there's items traversing the pipe. Cool. We can also, so that's pretty much all you can do with a basic guy here. You can also set a condition for when redstone signals are on. So let's do something real quick. So see how I don't have a wire here anymore? Our only conditionals are pipe empty or items traversing. Makes sense. But as soon as we place a redstone wire on this guy, we get a new conditional. Pipe empty, items traversing, or redstone signal on. And of course right now our only output here is redstone signal, so it's kind of silly to have a redstone signal on option when you just have this pipe by itself, but believe me, there's good reason for it coming up. So I've just created a new system. I made a gold pipe and said when there are items traversing, turn on the redstone signal. And you can see the first item that goes through the pipe activates the pipe with the redstone signal, and all the items following after it go through quicker. Now if this redstone engine were at full power, this machine would probably work a little bit better. So maybe I'll recreate that when this guy's running at full speed. Alright, let's try that again, shall we? This engine's moving a little bit quicker now, so the first item that goes in will activate the redstone signal, thereby activating this golden pipe. Not too bad, really. It kind of works, but, you know, it's not ideal. Obviously, it's probably better just to have a redstone torch underneath, but it gives you an idea of how the system works. So now that you've seen what a basic gate can do, let's cover the iron, gold, and diamond gates briefly. The iron gate, I'm choosing an AND gate here, has two inputs. You can say pipe empty, but without anything else going on here, it's kind of silly, because the only thing you could do is pipe empty and pipe not empty, which would be kind of backwards and never work. So you're going to want to run some redstone. And now we have the option of saying if the pipe has items in it and there's a redstone signal applied, then the condition comes out to be true. So you can see the redstone signal is there. Let's just change this to pipe empty for now. So when the pipe's empty and there's a redstone signal, we now get the true condition. And if we put down the golden AND gate, we now get up to 4 options. So that's pretty cool. You might be saying to me now, Direwolf, it's getting a little silly here with only these few options. Well, don't worry, there's a lot more to do with this once you get up to the gold level. Remember all those wires that we had? Yeah. Now, we can run wires along our pipes here, and when we open up our interface, one of the options is whether there's a red pipe signal on or off, as well as pipe empty, pipe traversing, redstone signal on and off. And one of the outputs could be red pipe signal. And if we had a blue, green, or yellow pipe signal here, we can do pretty much the same thing. So let's try hooking up a yellow pipe signal, for example. And you can see when I place it, it kind of places it along the bottom. So each of the 4 sides of the pipe is where you can place a wire. And now one of our optional outputs is or no, wait, I think I have to do it with blue. Because remember when we created the blue, or when we created the diamond, or I'm sorry, the gold pipe, we needed to use red and blue. So now it's only red and blue that works with gold gates, and in order to use the yellow and green, you have to use a diamond gate. So we could say that, you know, when the pipe is empty, let's say, and there's a redstone signal, turn on the blue cabling. How cool is that? Now you'll also notice with the golden gate, there's this new line here that's currently blocked out with a line, and the only thing that we can do here is with items traversing. So what's the deal with that? Well, remember I said earlier, oops, I didn't want this on. We can have it set up, as it is now, to emit a redstone signal when there are items traversing. So if I put a couple items in there, as soon as the items go through that pipe, it's going to emit a redstone signal. Great. However, I can set it up so that with the golden gate and above, we can say what items allow the signal to emit. How cool is that? So I just, as you saw, right-clicked in there and chose what it was that had to be going through. So if I put dirt in there, and you can see it's not taking up one of my items, it's just kind of storing it in there. And now let's put, you know, one piece of cobble through, and the cobble will emit a redstone signal. Sweet. If we put a piece of dirt through, the cobble just came out, so the signal turned off, and the dirt is not emitting a signal, because with the golden gate we get to specify which items emit a signal. Pretty cool. And now let's take a look at the diamond gates. So now that I'm using a diamond gate, I'm laying down some green wire, and we can see that the diamond gate gives us a lot more options, and it also lets us use all 4 colors of the wiring, as well as the standard pipes traversing and redstone signal stuff. And the same here for emitting a signal. You can emit red, yellow, green, blue signals. And you get a lot more options on how things work. So basically it's a more advanced version of the gold gate. So basically your cobblestone, your standard gates only give you the one option for things going through, and you can't use any wires. Your iron gates are an upgraded version of that standard gate, in that you can use 2 options, but you still can't use any wires. So if I place down the iron gate, you still can't do anything with wires. So basically the iron gates and the standard gates work the same, and the golden gates and the diamond gates work the same, but they're just higher versions of each other. So you might be saying, alright, this is cool, but it's all a little kinda not so fancy. What's the big deal here, Direwolf? Well, there's other things we can do. Let's say we applied this logic gate to a machine that had an engine touching it. Oh, wait a second. Now there's more options. If the engine is blue, emit a signal. Let's say a redstone signal or a red pipe signal, because we're using the golden, so we have this red state. So, you know, let's put it down here and say that if this engine is blue, emit a blue, blue signal. So you can see, because this engine status is blue, it's not anywhere near heated, it's emitting a signal. Or we can emit a redstone signal. That would be cool. And look, the engine turned on and it started pumping items out. Neat. So why don't I turn this guy off for now? But you can basically set this up to only run when the engine's cool, and when it got to the green state, it would turn off. And then when it got to the blue state, it would turn back on. We can also set it for when the engine state is green. Didn't mean to do that. Or yellow, or red, among other things. I'll get to them in a moment. So right now, our engine state is blinking between yellow and red, so you can see it blinking on and off. And it's emitting a red signal across the red wire, on and off, as it switches between the yellow state and the red state. And it would do the same thing for the red state, but kind of opposite, because the red state is blinking on and off as well. So if you're starting to think about this, you could set this up as an emergency shutoff system. If your engines reach red state for whatever reason, emit some kind of signal that turns them off. That would be pretty cool. Now, if you were watching as I was clicking around like an idiot back there, you'll see that because this logic gate is right next to a chest, we have another set of options. Inventory empty. See how there's a redstone signal when the inventory is empty? Watch what happens if I place a stack of cobble in there. Alright, so it looks like I just stumbled upon a little bug there, but let me show you how this is supposed to work. And maybe it's not a bug, maybe Space Toad intends it to be that way. So inventory empty is an option here, right? And you can see it's not currently lit up. So let's say inventory empty, emit a redstone signal. Why not? And we'll run some redstone. As soon as I empty this chest of its inventory, the redstone signal turned on, because the chest is now empty. So by having a gate on a pipe next to a chest, you can see whether or not the gate is empty. And if we put some cobblestone in, it turns off the redstone signal, because the inventory is no longer empty. You can also have a similar option here for items in inventory, kind of the opposite. If there's something in there, turn on the signal. Otherwise, don't turn on the signal. Kind of the opposite. Another option is space in inventory. This is kind of neat. Let's say that you wanted to maybe run this guy over to here. And this isn't a perfect example, but it'll get the point across. If there's space in the inventory. So if there's any space, go ahead and turn on this guy, and it'll start pumping items over. And as soon as this inventory fills up, it would turn off the redstone signal. Optionally, you can also do inventory full, so that it does something in the event that the inventory is full. In this case, it is not full, so it's not emitting a signal. Pretty cool. And by the way, that bug that I ran into a moment ago, I believe that if inventory empty, so the inventory is not empty now, right? That's cool. But if I put a redstone engine under here, it's gonna think the redstone engine has an inventory that's empty and emit a signal. And then if I break that redstone engine, it doesn't reset that inventory empty flag until I place a block underneath the thing here. And it's still not resetting it, so I have to like change this guy here. I might even need to break the block entirely to get it to reset. So that's the bug that I stumbled upon. But hey, like I said, it's alpha. What do you guys want? You should really only be playing with this if you want to help Space Toad test out his bugs and find them. So there you go, Space Toad, just found a bug for you. Anyway, let's move on. So a nifty thing here is that you can do similar things with liquid pipes. You can place a gold pipe here and say liquid traversing, or pipe empty. And the same thing with liquid traversing. If you choose the type of liquid that you're caring about, let's say we wanted to have fuel, you just do that, and now you've got a fuel bucket in there. And basically this will only emit its signal when there's fuel flowing through the pipe. Pretty nifty. You can do the same thing with water. And just like with chests, you can do the same thing with tanks. We can have pipe empty and liquid traversing just like we had before. We can also have tank empty, which you can see it's saying, hey, yeah, this tank next to me is empty. Or there's liquid in tank. There is not liquid in tank, so that's why the line is not on. There's space for liquid in tank, but the tank is not full. And of course, if you see you have pipe empty here, Let's set it to emit a redstone signal when the pipe's empty. If we were to put some liquid in the pipe, it's no longer empty. Pretty cool. And this also works for combustion engines. Let's say we had a combustion engine here. If I can find one real quick. We'll put it down here at this end. You can see the connecting pipe. Now we've got some more options. We can have the engine blue, green, yellow, and red again, as usual. We can also have the tank empties here. So this guy's tank is empty. That's not good. So let's do this. Let's see if this works real quick. Alright, so I just set up a pretty simple system. We've got a combustion engine here with nothing in its tanks. And we've got a logic gate here that says under some condition we're going to emit a blue pipe signal. And if we follow this blue pipe signal here to this wooden pipe, we can see that in the event that we can set it so that in the event that the blue pipe signal is on, which it is not yet because I haven't turned on this logic gate, to emit a redstone signal, which will activate this pump. So let's set this guy to emit a blue signal when the tank is empty. Now because the tank is empty, it's emitting a blue signal. The blue signal landing over here is emitting a redstone current. How neat is that? Now that the tank is no longer empty, there's stuff in it, you can see that the blue line turned off, which turned off the redstone signal. Now we can go on another step further. Maybe we want to have this guy run as long as there's space for liquid. So keep going until this tank is full, is basically what I just told it. And let's make sure we have enough liquid in this tank for it to pick up. And as soon as this guy fills up, he's going to stop with his blue signal, which will stop the redstone signal here. He's not full yet, but I want to point out to you guys, this tank is empty now. And this redstone signal's still going. That's probably not good. So maybe we can set up an indicator here that says liquid in tank. Uh-oh. That's right. Even though I'm getting a blue signal here, and there's no liquid in the tank, makes it so that the redstone signal, because those are both the outputs, does not occur. Only event that there's liquid in the tank will this redstone engine activate. So let's go ahead and give ourselves another bucket of oil, or fuel. Now that there's liquid in the tank, this guy turns on. And as soon as there's no longer liquid in the tank, he turns off. Dude, that is cool. So that's what an AND gate will do for you. It allows you to combine these two criteria into one output. And this guy still isn't full. So let's see what happens when he does fill up. Well, now there's liquid in the tank, so the redstone engine starts running again. And as soon as that engine fills up, which it did. However, you'll note that the blue line is still active. Why is that? Because there's room for water. So we'll have to set up another system here to make sure that there's water filling this guy up. But that's not a problem. We can sort that out at some time in the future. So that'll pretty much conclude this tutorial on how these guys work. I hope this is giving you some really neat ideas. Maybe at some time I'll do another video to show you guys some other more advanced things, or maybe I'll just have to stay tuned to my Let's Plays, and as soon as this gets more live and less alpha-ish, we might make this on use on the server, or maybe when I start a new single-player Let's Play, you'll be able to see some of the crazy designs that I come up with all this cool system here. So I hope you guys have enjoyed tutorial/demo of Space Toad's Buildcraft version 3.0. Definitely recommend checking it out, but I do not recommend checking it out on your production worlds. I would only create it in a test world, or make sure you have a valid backup before you really play with this at all. Because like I said, this is an alpha version, and you really should only be checking it out if you want to help Space Toad out. So this is Direwolf20 signing off. Hope you enjoyed it. Take it easy.